Listen to the contrast between the ant and the sluggard in chapter 6, 8 to 11. Go to the ant, you sluggard. Consider its ways and be wise. It has no commander, no overseer or ruler. Yet it stores its provisions in summer and gathers its food at harvest. How long will you lie there, you sluggard? When will you get up from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief and scarcity like an armed man. What's the contrast? Well, the ant is diligent. It's a self-starter. It doesn't need someone standing over it to tell it what to do. Instead, it's proactive, gathering and storing the food that it needs. And the sluggard, well, he's just lying around, inactive. There's no plan, no action. And these approaches to life are very different, and they reap different outcomes. So the ant is provided for. The sluggard has nothing. And we're invited to become like the ant, to have that kind of self-control and discipline that doesn't let rest turn into laziness and perhaps a serve me attitude. But it's not that the sluggard has no desires. So listen to Proverbs 13 verse 4 in the ESV. The soul of the sluggard craves and gets nothing, while the soul of the diligent is richly supplied. So on the one hand, a lazy person wants and wants, but is never full. While those who work hard, they end up satisfied. I wonder what those desires of the sluggard are. Perhaps it's it's this desire to have things handed to him on a platter without having to lift a finger. Perhaps it's the heart that's set on ease and comfort. And so Proverbs calls each of us to say no to laziness and to flourish instead by applying ourselves with a different attitude, diligence. But perhaps you're like me. I don't identify as being prone to laziness, particularly in my work ethic. I tend to be conscientious. I drift more towards overwork, I think, than underwork. And yet there are still temptations, potential moments of laziness. At home, perhaps to compensate for long hours, I may feel entitled and have moments where I just want my family to serve me. I may confuse rest with escapism. Moments of a serve me attitude and desires for comfort can still rule my heart and impact those around me. But instead, the Lord's call is saying no to laziness, embracing true rest instead, and practically serving those around me. Well, here's a proverb we looked at in the kids' talk about eating too much from our reading, Proverbs 25:16. If you find honey, eat just enough. Too much of it, and you'll vomit. What's it saying? Isn't it that you can have too much of a good thing? Honey is sweet, but if we have no limits, I'll just scoff this down until I've had my fill, we may vomit it up. As the temptation children have at Halloween, collecting an obscene amount of chocolate and sweets. Will they eat so much on that day that they regret it? Or will they enjoy just enough? Instead of overeating, self-control enables us to indulge in the sweetness of honey, but to enjoy it in good measure. I wonder what's like honey for you. Where are your weak spots where you're tempted to go beyond just enough? Sweet food? Alcohol? Perhaps another drink won't hurt, or even I've got to drown the pain. Binge watching Netflix until you feel gross, or pulling an all-nighter gaming. All sorts of ways we can do this. Honey comes up again in our passage, but in a slightly different way. Verse 27. It's not good to eat too much honey, nor it is honourable to search out matters that are too deep. What's it saying? Eating too much honey is not good. And like that, it's not good to search out things that are beyond us, some things that are too deep for us to understand. Self-control, again, it helps us to live within limits, to say no to our God-like desires to understand things which we might not be able to comprehend, to say no to our pride. It's interesting the way that ESV puts it. It's not good to eat much honey, nor is it glorious to seek one's own glory. We hear a lot about narcissism in our culture, based on that mythical story of Narcissus who fell in love with his own reflection. What's a narcissist? Well, someone who's obsessed with themselves, extreme self-centeredness. The world revolves around them. And self-control warns us of the danger of self-glory. We say no to that deluded way of thinking. I'm a person under God's authority. He is the one who's truly glorious. I find my worth in being close to him. So I refuse to live with a vision that I'm at the centre of the universe. I refuse to bend others to do my will. I refuse to use, abuse, and misuse others for my own ends. And instead, I choose to do what is good for them. After all, we're a people who live under God's words. Listen for the relationship between revelation, God's words, and restraint in Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no revelation, people cast off restraint. But blessed is the one who heeds wisdom's instruction. God's words lead to restraint, to self-control, to saying no to ourselves. I wonder, where does saying no to your desires hit home for you? When you think particularly about the same person that I asked you to think about last week, and if you haven't chosen anyone yet, the idea is pick someone in your life that you're likely to have interactions with over the coming week. What particular desires do you need to say no to love this person well? Does it relate to your sexual desire, your temptation to be lazy, or perhaps to neglect them through overwork? Are there ways you might